Okay, so for this video, we're going to be doing to control bleeding. So the first step we're going to want to do for controlling the bleeding is covering the wound and a dressing. So for this scenario, we're going to go ahead and say there's an open gash on her arm right here, and the patient's also unconscious. So the first thing we want to do is control the bleeding, and we're going to want to put a dressing on it, and for this we're using gauze. And the first thing we want to do is put it on there and then apply direct pressure firmly to make sure to help and stop the wound from bleeding. And once the bleeding stops, we're going to want to check for circulation warrants and beyond the injury. And then after that, we're going to want to cover the wound and dressing in a roller bandage to make sure that the dressing does not move. Now, if the bleeding were to not stop in this circumstance, what we would want to do is take off the dressing in the wound and apply a new one. And apply more direct pressure on it to try and help and control the bleeding. And then if the bleeding continues to be out of control, we can either use a tourniquet or a homeostatic dressing to control the bleeding even further. If the bleeding is still going on and seems very severe, I would go ahead and call more personnel to help the scene. And then I would also be following any local protocols to also for the bleeding, because there's a lot of risk of transmission of disease when working with open wounds like this and a lot of blood. So I would want to be making sure I am following all protocols of my employer to make sure that I am taking the right precautions for disease prevention as well. But that's basically the gist of it. I just want to practice wrapping this up one more time. If the bleeding wasn't too severe, we can end it now.